Something very interesting, at least interesting to me, happened this past week. I was I was watching a video of this YouTube fella that makes videos like I do, but way better than mine. Joe Scott, and he was making a video about this idea that's very similar to an idea that I had. I don't remember when, a long time ago. I was watching. I like to watch PBS documentaries quite a bit, and and they were talking about antimatter, and as they're describing what antimatter is or how it behaves, the idea came to me. Well, they said that antimatter, when it comes in contact with matter, it completely annihilates itself, meaning that there's nothing left, you know. And so the idea, when they were describing it, and then they came to that part about antimatter, that it would be the biggest bomb ever, bigger than the atom bomb or even hydrogen bomb. The idea came to me that this really dumb idea came to me that since antimatter and matter completely annihilate each other, the idea came to me that they remove themselves from the timeline. Usually, most scientists would draw the timeline as a straight line, right? With the future in the front and the past in the back. So anyway, so let's say that this right here is an antimatter particle, and this one over here is a normal particle. It doesn't matter what kind of particle. So anyway, so as they both go through time and they come together, they completely annihilate each other. It would be a huge explosion and nothing's left. So the idea came to me that they're removing themselves from the timeline because nothing's left, right? And since antimatter behaves almost exactly, no, not almost, exactly the opposite the way normal matter behaves. So you could argue that when this matter, this particle, normal matter particle, when it collides with antimatter, what it actually happens is that it goes back in time. That the explosion makes this particle, go back in time. So in other words, this antimatter particle and this particle, normal particle, are the same particle, just going backwards in time, right? That was the idea that it came to me, and I thought it was a dumb idea. So the reason that I thought it was a dumb idea is because it actually doesn't leave the timeline. What it does, it converts. The old famous Einstein form equation, E equals mc squared. What that means is that there is a lot of matter. I'm sorry, that there's a lot of energy in matter. If you solve for m is matter, is actually E over c squared. What this means is a very little matter, you get a lot of energy. That's what that equation means. That's the Einstein famous equation. So anyway, so what actually happens is that it just converts into energy, right? So it's still within the timeline going to the future. It's just not matter no more. It's energy. So this is a dumb idea, right? So that was my that I had that idea and I discarded it because it's a dumb idea. At least I thought at the time. But then I was watching this video a few days ago, almost a week ago, and this guy Joe Scott made this video.
But there is a fourth dimension that we experience every single day, the dimension of time. Of course, we only experience time in one direction, but what if something didn't? What if something, say an electron, were able to travel back and forth in time? Theoretically, it's possible. And it brings up some startling ideas about the nature of reality.
See, he's talking about the electron. I'm talking about antimatter, an antimatter particle. But it's a similar idea in that in the quantum world, things are not um, things are not restricted like we are. We've known for quite some time that time is not the way we perceive it. Einstein came up with the idea that that the present, like I think most people would think that the present is what exists, right? The past and the future do not exist until they become the present. Well, that's not actually the case. The entirety of time exists. I was going to say simultaneously, but that's invoking time, right? So, it, when the past does not stop existing after it becomes, when the present becomes the past does not stop existing. That was Einstein's idea, and it's pretty much accepted. At least I believe him for one. So anyway, so we know that time does not behave, or the characteristics of time are not exactly the way we perceive them. So this could be right. Like he was talking about the electron, and the reason the electron, some people, I think it's just a theory. It's a pretty weak theory, but it's not it hasn't been proven right. So anyways, the reason that they think that all the electrons are just one electron going back and forth in time is because they're all identical. And they're so identical that maybe they're the same one, that it's going forward and backwards in time, and at this moment we see all the electrons. I have no idea how many it has to be, and it's not infinite, right? Because there's only so much matter, but they're uncountable, almost infinite, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Almost infinite does not make sense. So, anyways, so I was kind of happy that somebody had a similar thought to my thought, even though I still think this is a dumb idea. But I thought, well, if one of my ideas has some weight to it, even though it can't possibly be true, then maybe my other ideas might be true, So I was a little happy seeing that video and remembering this idea that I had a long time ago. But then, this would have been Friday, I saw this video. And it's a video of a scientist, a panel scientist, talking about science. And one of them said this right here that I'm about to play.
Some summer program, and I was bored. And the teacher came down and said, "You look bored," and he gave me a book. And in fact, I think if this works, it does. This was the book. It's called The Character of Physical Law by Richard Feynman. And he said, look, this is a book by a guy who won the Nobel Prize.
I need to read this book. If what they say is true, and apparently it is true, this is very interesting to me. Okay, so...
Recently, for proving that antiparticles are particles going backwards in time. Wow, this is amazing. So
see, right there. Some guy a long time ago, I have no idea when, proved that antimatter or antiparticles are particles going back in time. Apparently, according to this guy, he proved it. So I need to read that book. But and so I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder. Obviously, it was his idea a long time ago, way before it was my idea. The thing is that this dumb idea that I thought was a dumb idea turned out to be true. Maybe he came up with the idea a little bit different than I came up with the idea. Maybe the way I came up with the idea is a dumb idea still, right? But the idea that antiparticles are particles going backwards in time apparently is true. And that honestly, that blew me away. That this dumb idea is right. It honestly blew me away. When I heard that, I rewinded it real quick. It was on YouTube, so I made it go back, and I said, "Yeah, shit, man, this turned out to be right." Even though I think it's a dumb idea, the reason I think it's a dumb idea is the way I just described it, because E equals mc squared means that the matter did not get removed from the timeline. It just was converted to pure energy. To energy. It's still there. It still goes here in the future. It's just no longer matter. It's energy. But I don't get it. How could he have proved it that antimatter is matter going backwards in time. I have no idea. Well, anyways, though, this has kept me up at night thinking about this, and actually this has given me a few ideas. I need to read the book first before I start talking about my new ideas, but it's given me a few ideas about my other ideas about gravity and about the causality and the beginning of the Big Bang, and stuff. I'm gonna share one of the ideas that it came to me, that the reason that I don't think the electron is one electron is because there's a finite number of electrons. So let's say that this is over here is the Big Bang, right? There was that huge explosion and this is the timeline in this direction, and then time ends, I guess. So the electrons are going forward in time and then backwards. Well, what would make it backwards, and what would, it would go forward in time, let's say in the trillions of times. I don't know how many times it will take. Well, what would make it eventually stop? Because electrons are finite. They're not infinite, they're finite. I have no idea how many there are. I'm sure somebody has calculated how many electrons there are in the universe. The thing is that they're finite. So why would it eventually stop bouncing back? You know what I mean? This is also an interesting idea of the electron going back and forth, because you know how the when the Big Bang happened, I guess, where did all that matter came from? Well, it turns out that there is not really that much matter. There's only one electron, and I'm guessing there's only one positron. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. So, anyways, though, that's an interesting idea, that the reason that there's so much matter is because there's not really that much matter. There's only one electron, so there's only one of every type of particle, I guess. I don't know. I still don't. What would cause it to eventually stop? The electron bouncing back and forth, because they're finite. The amount of electrons, whatever number they are in the Google amount, I guess, I don't know what it would be. They're still finite. So why would it stop bouncing back and forth from the Big Bang to the end of time? And what would cause the end of time? The theory right now of the end of time is that well, I don't know enough to be able to explain it, but the theory right now is that everything dissipates. Does that mean time stops when everything dissipates? I don't know. Anyways, this idea is that the universe not only does it have a beginning, but it has an end, and both of them were created at the same time. It was like an accordion moving up. So this could mean, this isn't me thinking for a couple of days. I still don't know if I like these ideas. Thinking that I lost my train of thought. Hold on. that it would open up like an accordion. The beginning and the end were created. I know this word does not quite fit, but created simultaneously, and they were opening up. The time within there has been opening up. The same way the universe is supposedly expanding, even though I don't quite buy it. I think it's causality slowing down. Well, anyways, though, the same way the universe is expanding space-wise, you could never get to one side of the universe to the other because it's expanding too quick. Even if you go as fast as the speed of light, you would never be able to get to it one side because it's expanding. Well, in the same way that space is expanding, time might be expanding. And that means that it doesn't matter how long we live, we're not going to get to the end of time. So if you don't get to the end of time, how is in the hell electrons bouncing back and forth? The one electron bouncing back and forth. Anyways, though, this gave me quite a few ideas that don't make sense even more. So I don't think the electron theory is correct, just because of that. Why? The electrons are finite, so that means that it eventually would stop bouncing back and forth through time. But this guy, whoever this guy is, I'm gonna read his book, proved that antimatter is matter going backwards in time. I have no idea how he did it. I still think it's a dumb idea because, like I said earlier, matter is not removed from. The reason I thought it might be that matter, that antimatter is matter going backwards in time, because it seemed to be removed from time. You know, a particle would go through time, collide with antimatter, and then go backwards as antimatter in time. But the energy's still there. The big explosion is still here within the timeline. I don't know. I don't know. It was very interesting to me. A couple of things were interesting to me. First of all, that somebody had the same idea that I did, and they were smart enough to prove it, apparently. And also that if antimatter is matter going backwards in time, not only Einstein's ideas were. Have I already said this about Einstein? And Einstein redefined time. I think I already said it right. Well, anyways, though, I'll just cut it out if I did. Uh, uh, Most people, I think, including myself, a long time ago, we think that the present is what exists, right? And as soon as the present becomes the past, that moment in time does not exist anymore. Or, well, according to Einstein, it still exists. It's kind of hard to explain it, but it still does exist. And in the same sense, the future exists already, even though we haven't experienced it yet. That the whole timeline exists, and I know this word does not make sense, but the whole timeline of the universe, the entirety of it, exists simultaneously. Well, anyways, this blew me away. That one of my ideas, this stupid idea, somebody was able to prove that it's accurate, that it was correct. Anyways, this gave me hope that maybe my other ideas, my gravity ideas, my Big Bang idea about causality and stuff like that, maybe they might be also true. Anyways, I just wanted to brag a little bit.